It is a beautiful spring day. Really looking forward to another lawn care season. And one of the big reasons why is because I don't have to cut my grass. I've been through many iterations of mowers, walk behind, extra wide walk behind, ride on, compact tractor with a cutting deck. And none of them really quite did it for me. I was always excited in spring for the first cut. But after a month or so, you get really tired of that chore. Then I discovered robotic lawnmowers, and for the last 3 years, I've not had to cut my lawn, and I am not going back. The first generation of these robotic lawnmowers were pretty difficult to install. You had to put boundary wires along the house, the flower bed, the edge of the yard, and then basically it would sense that wire and bounce back randomly in the yard. But about 3 years ago, these advanced and started incorporating global positioning systems. And so giving you the ability to map your yard with satellites and then the mower knowing its position, again, based on that GPS. And it can do perfectly straight lines. You can control the pattern. Just really cool technology to incorporate into a robotic lawnmower. And then every year since, these manufacturers have increased the technology. So not only GPS, but also vision systems, LiDAR systems, just really cool stuff. So I'm very excited this year to test out a brand new 2025 lawnmower by Ecovacs, incorporating the latest technology. Man, couldn't be more excited. Now you can always pay somebody to cut your grass. That's been around forever. And that's a good option for some people, but I like still having the control of, I can tell that robot mower to cut every day and the yard looks freshly cut all the time, and I like to keep it a little bit shorter. So this prevents, if you choose to mulch, it prevents those grass clippings from getting too long and smothering out the grass and piling up. Also, the cost doesn't add up. If I choose to do it once a week and pay somebody, probably not so bad, but if I want them to come out every other day, well, then the cost starts escalating pretty significantly, which with the robot mower, we can have it cut all the time. Also, the relatively small footprint of these robotic lawnmowers follows terrain incredibly well. Smaller than even the smallest walk behind mower. So this terrain that I have here, I've tried different things. The compact tractor with a mower deck wasn't good because the deck was like 54 inches and it just can't conform to these rolling undulations. Simplicity with their floating mower deck does a little bit better job, but still you can't improve on a small footprint. It's able to follow the terrain incredibly well. That ability has improved my overall lawn health because on the high spots they're not getting ground down to dirt. Scalping is often referred to. It's a nice even cut, and the frequent cuttings, because we're taking off a very small amount of that grass blade, it improves the overall health. It doesn't shock the plant as much. The old rule is you never want to cut more than 1/3 off the grass blade at any one time. It shocks the plant. And if you're cutting once a week in the high growth times of year like spring, that's incredibly different. Here is the Goat A2500 by Ecovacs. In the box, there's going to be 3 main components. The first one is this RTK antenna, then the robotic mower itself, and lastly, the charging station. In my opinion, what makes this mower so innovative and different is the LiDAR enhanced RTK navigation. So it gets around with GPS and satellite help in addition to onboard LiDAR. And it's not done there. It has an artificial intelligence powered vision system for obstacle avoidance in addition to a front bumper. Goat operates on a 32-volt system, which is a significant bump up from historic mowers that are 22-volt or less. This allows these cutting discs to spin faster and the drive units to drive the unit faster to increase mowing speed. I also appreciate the offset discs so that there's no misgrass between the cutting heads. This is a rear-wheel drive platform. You can see the two large drive wheels in the back and caster wheels up front. Now it's time to set up the mower. The first thing we have to do is pick an area with open sky above it. I'm going to use that to mount the charging station here along with the RTK antenna. You will also need to have power within extension cord reach of this particular area. I'm choosing this because I can run the power cord within the flower bed over to an outlet on the right hand side of that service door that you see. The RTK connects to a small pigtail coming out of the back of the charging station. You can see it comes with a pretty significant length of cable. This is another thing that needs open sky so that this can communicate with satellites. There is a feature within the app that shows you your signal strength, but starting off with a good location is easier than moving in the future. I am pushing the distance from the garage here to the RTK and the base station. They recommend farther out from this so that's not interfering with satellite signal. But I'm going to do the edge case to let you know if this is possible to work. Ecovacs does provide a very complete kit, including things down to cable organization, like these plastic clips that help manage the power cable for the RTK. Before moving on to the next step, we have to secure the charging base. If the charging base or the RTK moves, you have to completely redo your mapping. So it's important that this stays fixed, and they provide these ground screws that work very good in doing so. But it's one thing to keep in mind with the RTK also, you can't pull it out of the ground and move it or it's going to mess up all of the reference locations. Now we can put the mower on the charging station and it'll automatically boot up. We can see at the top of the mower there's a red emergency stop button along with a small user interface and a rain sensor, so the mower will stop mowing in case it senses rain. A solid blue light on the RTK means the mower and the RTK are happy, they're connected, and they have satellite signal. Now that the mower is booted up, we have to set a pin for security reasons. So this is an anti-theft device. If you don't know what this pin is, you can't steal it and use it at your home. To control the mower, you're going to download the Ecovacs app to a smartphone. They make this really easy. Use the QR code, scan the QR code on the bot itself. You can download the app, create a user account, and add the bot just like any Bluetooth device. The app does a very good job of walking you through the process. I especially like this part where it quantifies the number of valid satellites you have for your position and tells you if it's good or not. So even in this position, which is not ideal, I still got the green light to map. Now, with a lot of past robot mowers, you had to manually control the robot around the boundary of your lawn to set the mow area. This has a unique auto mapping feature, so it uses that AI vision and the LiDAR and RTK in concert to allow it to drive around well-defined borders. So you can see here I have a very well-defined border with these concrete edgers, and it follows it very nicely. It's able to determine visually the difference between grass and a non-grass surface. Same thing on the driveway here. So initial impressions here are very good. It's navigating this boundary as good as I can manually. It's doing a great job. Really impressed here. Now these concrete edgers provide a little bit of a problem because they stick up a little more proud of the grass than the previous one, so the mower does catch itself on them a little bit. I could easily turn off auto mapping, which is a great feature of this bot, There's a switch right on the user interface where you pause auto mapping, you manually control the bot around the obstacle or border that you want, and then you can turn it right back on. I decided for the test to leave it in auto mapping to see how it did. And I'm very impressed here because it didn't air out or do anything. It continued on, it bumped into it a few times, but self-corrected. Again, very impressed. And if I were to do this in the future with a non-test or video mentality, I would have just controlled that manually. Here's another big challenge. This is a significant slope. This obviously is a bit of a challenge for the bot to follow this with one wheel in the grass, and if one wheel gets on that French drain, it loses basically half its traction and tends to slide down. So again, something I could easily turn off the auto mapping, but again, I'm really impressed that it's not airing out or crashing. It just, okay, I slid, I'm going to correct course and move on. I'm just very impressed with that. Official spec for this mower is a 50% slope or 27 degrees. So I threw a quick measurement down here. I'm actually at 29 degrees, so I'm exceeding the limit. Now this is an area where I have to toggle off auto mapping because there's no defined edge between my lawn and the neighbor's lawn. But again, very user friendly. Simply toggle off. You can control with a little directional on your phone and drive the bot around the boundary. Now that I'm back on an edge between the lawn and the woods, I'm going to turn back on auto mapping. And to test this case, yes, my yard is full of challenges. This edge is not super defined in a lot of these spots because it's very early season grass. In addition to, I've got blackberry brush hanging over the edge in some of these cases. So it took a little bit of a wide turn there, and I believe that was to avoid the overhanging blackberry brush. Overall, I am impressed with how it's following the edge of the lawn. This area up ahead, though, I did have to override and go out of auto mapping. As you can see, it starts to veer off a bit. And it's not the bot's fault, though, because I've got a lot of dirt in this area. I've got aspirations to make this grass and not dirt, so I want to map the entire area as a mown area. So all I did is simply toggle off the auto mapping, go into manual, roll it back a little bit, and then control it till I get through this area. I have to thank Ecovacs for providing the Goat A2500 to test and sponsoring this video. Without company support like that, I simply couldn't do the number of videos like this. It wouldn't be practical for me to get this many robot mowers and test them out, so that's appreciated. But the one thing I have to call out for this company that was very impressive for me, when you get a high dollar item like this, they often make you sign a contract. Right in the legal description of the contract, it said I was allowed to share positive and negative opinions of this mower. So good job, Ecovacs. You're gonna get my unbiased opinion on this lawnmower. And so far, this setup and mapping experience has been the best I've experienced so far with any robot lawnmower. Every year this technology improves, and Ecovacs obviously has been in the game for quite some time, and they're providing a very polished product here. I'm really impressed so far. How seamlessly we can move between auto mapping and manual mapping on those areas where we don't have a defined edge is super impressive. The vision system and the LiDAR is doing a great job on this undefined edge between the woods and the grass, better than I was expecting. I was expecting to have to do that manually, but it's doing a great job. Yeah, very impressed so far. I'm going to speed this up lest we get bored with mapping, but I've got a couple different scenarios here. You can see there's a rock retaining wall, and this is in auto mapping, following it very nicely. We've got a couple raised flower beds, again, follows it pretty decently. Right back to the retaining wall. Then we have a flat section of lawn up against the French drain, and you can see it has no issues with that whatsoever. Once you are back to where you started, so you created an enclosed loop, the mower will stop itself and you can confirm in the app to create the boundary area. This is what my finished map looks like. Again, a very complicated yard, but it handled it flawlessly. Even with the RTK and base station a little bit close to the garage or structure, I had no signal errors or no interruptions to this mapping process, which I cannot say for other robot mowers. So this definitely gets an A+. If the overall map is done, we have to make no entry zones. So I'm going to make one of these for each of these flower beds within the overall map. Within this mapping feature, it's very easy. Once you've got your main map done, you just go back in there and create the no entry zones. After creating these boundaries along all of my flower beds, I end up with a final map with these red areas, these no entry zones within the overall cutting area. Now setup is completely done. It is time to mow, and all you have to do on your app is schedule a mowing or tell it go mow now, and it will start cutting your grass in these nice, perfect lines. You do have a bunch of controls. This is its slow mowing speed, but you also do have a fast mowing speed. But initial impressions here, the speed of the cutting discs with 32 volt system and the fact that they're overlapped or offset gives a very nice cut quality. Very impressed with that. And it does nice straight lines. I had zero issues again with the RTK signal or positioning of the robot itself. That was rock solid, so really appreciate that. And you don't have to worry if things are left out in the yard because the obstacle avoidance of this bot is quite good. You can see it easily recognizes a soccer ball or a bucket, and the precision is interesting. Look at how close it gets, but it never touches. It recognizes that it's not going to hit the ball and then snugs tight up against the bucket, turns around and keeps mowing. While mowing, the machine is quite quiet. Most of the noise is actually generated from the interaction between the blades and the grass itself. Now it's time to increase mower speed, so we can go from delicate mowing speed to quick mowing speed, and it's a noticeable difference. This changes this mower from a normal robotic mower to the fastest one I've ever seen. And the good news is it really seems to maintain cut quality going at this faster, quick speed. It really comes down to that 32 volt system being able to spin those cutting discs faster. Here's some additional footage from a different perspective to give you an idea of what this faster mowing speed looks like. Overall, the first mowing went pretty good, but I did have one problem area, and it's not the fault of the mower or Ecovacs because their app specifically warns you about this situation of having a sloped area that leads to a drop-off. And unfortunately, with these edgers, they're at the same level as the grass, and then a couple inch drop-off that gets the front wheels snagged of the bot. Here's another look at that sloped area that leads to these concrete edgers, and then there's a pretty significant lip on the edge of, on this edger down into the rocks, and if the mower goes over that, the front wheels especially fall down in that and it gets stuck. So we've got a couple of ways to deal with this right in the app. It does warn you about this scenario, as I said. And so I could have taken this out of manual mapping in this particular area, because manual is creating the offset from this boundary, assuming it's flat. And so it gets a little bit closer there to try to minimize the amount of edging that you have to do, or string trimming. So we've got a couple options. We could have done that when we were mapping, but since the map is already done, I'm just going to drive this around and make a no-go zone, basically to just make that offset another 4 inches off there. I'll have a little more string trimming, but it'll do a good job. Here's the result of that no-go zone. I've got it highlighted on the map with the yellow arrow. Just a thin strip of no-go zone along the rock retaining wall to, again, keep the bot a little bit further away from these edgers, and it's worked perfectly since. All of these areas that I'm showing now were cut at the high cut speed, or the quick cut speed of the 2.3 meters per second. And overall impressive. There's no grass that was missed. Did a really good job. The lines are nice and straight. It does give a decent striping effect. Yeah, you'll be happy with your lawn if it's cut by this bot. A few things really stick out to me about this mower. Number one, it's the fastest robotic mower that I've experienced and seen by quite a margin. And it also does that while maintaining the best cut quality. I think that all comes down to that 32 volt system and being able to spin those cutting discs faster than the others. Great job there. The second thing is this RTK hardware, and the connection to the bot itself is absolutely rock solid. Even though I'm only a few feet away from the garage and on the ground mounted pole, I had zero errors, absolutely rock solid navigation with the bot. With past mowers, I had to resort to mounting the RTK up on the peak of the roof just to get signal to all different parts of my yard. With this thing and the Ecovacs, clearly it's just better. Absolutely rock solid signal. If you decide to purchase this bot by Ecovacs, you're going to be happy with it. As long as you avoid or don't have the slopes beyond what it's rated for, you're going to be very happy. Unfortunately, I have a few of those, and you can see what happens if you don't pay attention to those. You're going to have occasional problems. But otherwise, very well done. Good job, Ecovacs. Thanks for watching. Adios.